So you've gone from being the front runner to someone that's now chasing and trying to catch up a little bit in that new field. And so every athlete faces this because we all, retire young,
Right.
in your 20s or 30s. And so whatever you do next, you're going to be the one at the bottom of the pile trying to climb the ladder,
Right.
which is difficult when you've been in front your whole life.
Yeah.